Long story short, it was a bad time. Or AIs Don't Forget by Peacockgirl. Chapter 9. Bonus. Strange. Tony leaves the donut shop with a spring in his step. At first he tells himself it's because he's off to see the wizard and give him a piece of his mind. It's been a long time since he let out some steam with a good old punch in the face. It was always bad PR and Pepper never approved. But once they got together, her punishments got a lot more creative. But he's willing to face her ire this once. He's been so mad at Grindelwald, and he knows he'll feel better once Stephen understands the consequences of his actions. Except getting to that point is probably going to suck, between rehashing Peter's devastation and all those messy emotions the whole ordeal has brought to the surface. That's the last thing he wants to discuss with a neurosurgeon turned amateur magician. Yuck. And it wasn't exactly a great day, starting with May's funeral. The kid did great, Tony's so proud, all meltdowns miraculously averted. But May is still gone, and that's no cause for celebration. It's definitely the dad thing. Tony knows Peter was joking. Knows because that's exactly the play Tony would have made if he ever had a male role model close enough to deserve that moniker. Come to think of it, there had been a time or two he let himself imagine what would happen if he sprang that joke on Jarvis. It would have had to be perfect, the timing and the tone and the situation. But Jarvis had been too British to be amused by that sort of thing, and while he might not have minded the sentiment behind it, Howard certainly would have. That would have turned out awful for both of them. So, no dad for Tony, and that was fine. Whatever. Terrible. But now Tony is dad, and not just to a menacing 5-year-old genius, but also to a 17-year-old spider baby genius who is the complete opposite of a menace, who doesn't share a drop of blood with Tony, but is willing to claim him anyway, despite his impressive list of screw-ups. Tony knows calling him dad was a test, but he thinks he handled it admirably, joking along when in truth he wanted to tackle Peter in a bear hug and surreptitiously cry into the kid's suit jacket. He must not have messed anything up, because Pete had said it again, and Tony's still soaring from the high. Sooner or later, he's bound to say it seriously. Tony can't wait for that day. He might actually let the kids see his tears. So, Dad Tony with a healing spider baby, and a wicked witch that needs telling off. Tony knows he's made mistakes with Peter. Unfortunately, it's statistically probable that he'll make some more. But this spell was the biggest screw-up of Peter's unfairly traumatic life, and Tony can't let Strange off the hook without even knowing what he's done. 'Cause that's a dad thing to do, right? Protect your kid? Even if said kid is too sweet and self-effacing to cast any blame on others. As much as Peter doesn't want him to, Tony has to do this. Grindelwald's place is ostentatious, even by Tony's standards, which is saying something. It's only once Tony is pounding on the door of 117A Bleecker Street that he realises he has no plan B if the wizard isn't here. That would be dreadfully anticlimactic. "Open up, Harry," he called, using his metal fist to knock even harder. When the door finally opens, Strange looks ready for battle, even though it's the middle of the day and the world isn't in crisis. Who wears a cape unironically in New York City? Okay, Thor, but Tony knows Stephen Strange was a regular dude 10 years ago, with several degrees and a thriving medical practice. Maybe the cape is compensating for his subpar magical talent. Stark. To what pleasure do I owe a visit from a dead man? His tone is so damn flippant. Tony's anger flares red like the cape that is floating in the non-existent wind. All thought of civil conversation flies right out his brain, and he whines back and punches Grindelwald straight in the jaw with his metal fist. Fancy as his prosthesis is, there's no nerve cells in the nanotech, so all he feels is an unsatisfying jolt through his arm. But suddenly Tony is flying backwards, even though Strange didn't touch him. And something is unquestionably wrong, because Tony experiences the momentum, his perspective changes. But he can see his body exactly where it stood, shiny red arm still collided with Strange's fist. What the hell is going on? Don't tell me I'm dead, damn you. Panic hits him fast. Peter will blame himself. This will destroy him. No, 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 this cannot be happening. But it's strange because his brain runs like a race car in Monaco, but his chest isn't tight, his heart isn't racing, his breath isn't erratic. He can't feel any signs of a panic attack, even though he is, undoubtedly, panicking. What he isn't is fucking breathing. Yes, Strange says drolly, taking one step back from Tony's arm. I just killed the saviour of half the universe because he showed up out of the blue and punched me without provocation. Tony wants to punch him again, but he's starting to realise that might be exactly what this out-of-body experience is meant to prevent. See, your tone says you're joking, but I'm going to need confirmation because I don't know what the hell you just did to me. You're not dead, Stark. Don't be a drama queen. I just separated your astral form from your body. Completely reversible, as long as I don't wait too long. So why don't you hurry up and tell me what's on your mind? You hurt my kid, asshole. That's what's on my mind. Tony can see how that shakes Stephen, but only for a second. Isn't your kid, 6? What could I have possibly done to her? Despite Wong's very rude suggestion, I don't do birthday parties. Not Morgan, Tony spits. Peter. Strange's eyes narrow, his bushy brows furrowing together. I was unaware you had a son. That's bullshit. Think about it. Something's off in your impeccable memory. My son, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. You called him my ward once when we were in space. Donut ship on a one-way trip to the other end of the universe. He saved your life, even though I tried to send him home. Stephen's face purses even tighter. I remember Spider-Man was there, but he didn't unmask. Yeah, and that doesn't make any sense. We were in that ship for hours. Just 3 heroes on a suicide mission. Why would he keep the mask on? Take it from someone who knows they're not that comfortable. That's not how I remember it. You're remembering it wrong, Einstein. Think. You told me you'd sacrifice either me or the kid for the time stone, and then I made him an Avenger. We fought. We lost. You gave the time stone to Thanos anyway, and then Pete and I watched you die, floated away on the wind with some completely unhelpful last words. Apparently the Ministry of Magic gave your job to Wong afterwards, which Pete says you're still salty about. Though I say it couldn't have happened to a more competent guy. Fast forward 6 years and you're fucking erase my kid when he asked you for a favour. Strange's eyes widen, his face crumbles in a grimace, and Tony is suddenly back in his body, pitching forward with the momentum of his punch. There it is. How do you remember him? Tony is startled by the laugh that bursts out of him, dark and cold and bitter. Are those really your first words here? Not, I'm sorry. He flexes his fists, thinking that Stephen let him free too early. I am sorry, but... Tony steps forward, his finger raised in warning. It takes every ounce of self-restraint he has to not start swinging again. No buts. I'm sorry. Full stop. Just dwell in that for a little while, because you have no idea what your spell did to him. That spell was Peter's idea, and if it makes you feel any better, it not only saved everyone in this world, but in an infinite number of multiverses. He saw the solution, and he made the call without any hesitation. It does not make me feel any better, Tony rages. I don't need you to tell me the kid's a big damn hero. He's more self-sacrificial than Cap. He'd lay down on any wire. That's why he ended up on that spaceship, saving you. But he's too young to have to make those calls. The multiverse should not be collapsing because he wants to go to college. It's infuriating how calm Grindelwald remains. He doesn't raise his voice at all when he says, he didn't come here to get himself into college. He just wanted his friends to get in. And then Tony is collapsing. Because of course, the kid is so damn good and somehow it bites him in the ass every time. Do you see how you made his life worse by making those same friends forget about him? He spits. Along with every other person on the planet, as well as the US government, his high school, MIT. That wasn't my original intention. It was an unintended consequence. God, this is like an accord conversation all over again. Maybe I ought to call up my buddy Ross and suggest the Ministry of Magic needs a little oversight. We're supposed to reduce collateral damage when we can. We're supposed to care. I do care. Something wavers in Strange's voice, but it will never be enough. Look, the memories of Peter aren't gone. The energy it would take to erase every single memory of him, especially when the whole world was talking about Peter being Spider-Man for months. The magnitude of that would be unimaginable. But if you think of the brain like a computer, what the spell actually did was sever the shortcuts between the name Peter Parker and the memories of him. Shortcuts? When are these computers from? 2005? The memory files are still there. Everyone's brains have just forgotten how to access them. I could create new links. Trauma, Tony interrupts. Pardon? Trauma. All you need is a reminder of a traumatic event you shared with Peter, and bam, instantaneous file access. Everyone who needs to remember Peter already does. Alright then, I can get him some new documents. Tony scoffs. Who do you take me for that you think I need magic to forge some documents? I can hack any government system before you can crack open a spellbook. Why did you come here then? Strange asks. Finally he seems rattled, his hands shaking at his sides. Tony feels a spike of satisfaction, but it doesn't last. What do you need me to do? I didn't come here for your help, Tony says. I came because I wanted you to know what you'd done. I hurt your kid. I get it. I messed up his life. You can hit me again if it helps. You don't get it. You couldn't look me in the face if you really understood. Thank God your spell didn't work on AIs, because one night I get an alert that Peter Parker just asked how to make a tourniquet. Instead of rushing there immediately, I had to ask, "Hey, Fry, who the hell is that and why are you telling me?" By the time I got my oblivious ass over there, he was minutes from bleeding out. And you know what was worse? When he woke up. When he closes his eyes, Tony can still see Pete that day, so pale, so gaunt, so devastated, a living ghost, misery incarnate. And everything inside Tony had loved him, and hadn't a clue why. Tony wishes he couldn't feel his body now, 'cause his chest seizes and his eyes burn. That kid loved his aunt, and he had to deal with her loss on his own. He spent 6 months blaming himself, and there was no one to tell him it wasn't his fault. He had no one. Do you get that? Not a single person in his corner who knew who he was, who cared. If you were going to design a personal hell for Peter Parker, that would be it. Just him and his guilt, utterly alone. Tony. So many tears have splashed on the lenses of his sunglasses that Tony can't see. He rips them off, tries in vain to dry them on his blazer, swipes his forearm across his eyes. He needed me, and I wasn't there because of you. He was suffering and I could have helped him, but I didn't even know he existed. He was freezing and half-starved and living in an absolute shithole because the kid had to support himself without an identity. Tony could go on, but he cuts himself off, because the rest is not his to tell. Pete's brave, terrible admission of all the ways he'd contemplated escape. That Tony was very nearly too late. If Pete had taken his own life, no one would have even known to mourn. The idea makes Tony so sick. He'd murder every wizard in the world with his bare hands if that would change it. But there's only one wizard responsible, and nothing Tony has said here has changed a thing. I can't take it back. I'm sorry, but it happened. Strange does sound sorry, not as wrecked as Tony, but wrecked just a little. It isn't enough. Do you have kids, Stephen? No. Nieces or nephews? Perhaps a plucky magical apprentice? Strange shakes his head. Just Wong, he says wryly, but I don't think he counts. He doesn't. Tony takes a deep breath and tries to find the lesson in this whole mess. Look, Peter should have never asked you to use magic to fix his problems. I know that. All he had to do was call me. Even presumed dead, I could have gotten him and every classmate in his school into MIT if he had asked me to. But he's 17 years old. He makes dumb choices because his brain isn't fully developed yet. Don't tell me you never did anything when you were young that you regret. A few things when I was an adult, too. Sure. But that's the thing, you're the adult now, the magic subject matter expert apparently, so when a literal child asks you for a magic spell, you should take a breath and consider how severe the consequences might be if you obliged him. Ask some probing questions about who he'd like the spell to affect. List enough consequences so he freaks out and tells you to forget it before you start casting. Or maybe ask, hey, did you try calling MIT before you punch a hole in the multiverse? There's a learning curve. I admit I screwed the pooch a few times with Peter, but my mistakes were like mid-sized labradoodles, and yours was a world record St. Bernard. Stephen's nose wrinkles. That is a gross metaphor. It has history. The point is, teenagers don't always know what's best for them. Mentoring 101. They look to us, the responsible adults, to be responsible adults. Tony rubs at the ache in his temples. I can't believe I just said that. Pepper would be so proud. Except for the punch. That she wouldn't approve of. Thanks for the parenting lessons, but I think I'll just stay away from any impressionable heroes. I work better alone. Tony's hit with deja vu so strong he feels the shrapnel in his chest. Hears the hum of the car battery. It all clicks. Pete says you and I were alike. I thought he was just riling me up, but he might have been onto something. We're not alike, you and me, right now. His finger waves between them. But what you just said there, it's like looking in a mirror at my younger self. A dirty mirror that's made me significantly less attractive. Stark. Strange growls. But Tony's on a roll, hyped and calm all at once. It's just like solving time travel. He's figured this out. I used to feel that way. Didn't need anyone, just the AI I'd built. A bit more talkative than your cape, but the idea is still the same. I told myself that I liked it, until I ended up in a cave in Afghanistan and a very smart man called me out on my bullshit. The man with everything and nothing, Yinsen called me. He was right. I was miserable. Then he died saving my life and he told me not to waste mine, so I stopped, and it sucked. It was hard. People hurt you, they disappoint you, they die. You worry all the time. And fatherhood, it's amazing and it's awful, simultaneously. I love Peter so damn much I came here to punch a wizard, and he's not even biologically my kid. It makes no sense, and it makes all the sense in the world. Are you my psychologist now? You wish. You could not afford me. This is just some professional advice, hero to hero. This saving the world stuff, it fucks you up. You're not meant to do it alone. Because when the mission's over and the world's saved, or it's not, you need someone to remind you that there's still life outside the suit, or the orange hand-wavy circle. We can't all be the hero all the time. We'd flame out or we'd go to the dark side. Or we'd lay down on a wire so we don't have to, because we're just so damn tired. This whole sarcastic loner in a cape thing, it's sad. You should get yourself an apprentice. Apparently Peter's friend Ned is pretty magical. After destroying your son's life, you think I should mentor his best friend? Yeah, that sounds bad when you say it, but it would be good for you. Just remember the dog metaphor. Only screw the small pooches. And if you do any magic on my kid without my express consent, I will shoot you with the Iron Man gauntlet. No questions asked. Part of him wants to punch Strange again, just for good measure, with his normal hand so he can feel the pain across his knuckles, but he doesn't really want Pepper, or Peter, to see the bruise. He's had enough of pain, and Strange's suffering will never take away Peter's. His anger has thawed. Empathy wriggles inside him now, touching on all sorts of uncomfortable feelings, begging him to make a quick escape. But he thinks Peter would be proud. Certainly prouder than when he was punching first and yelling later. He thinks Yinsen will be proud too. He hopes somehow the man knows of the legacy he left. Tony has tried so hard to make his life worth something. The best way to do it is to pass the lessons along. Understood. Strange's hands are still shaking. Could you tell Peter that I really am sorry? About everything? He won't accept your apology. Tony's not a good enough person that he doesn't let Stephen stew on that for a few minutes. Of course, I don't deserve his forgiveness, I just meant... But there's no satisfaction to be had in his grovelling. He won't accept it because he doesn't think you've done anything wrong. Oh, The wizard goes absolutely still. Even his cape stops moving. He didn't want me to come here. He doesn't blame you. And if he can forgive you, then I guess I can at least try. Are you sure you don't want to hit me again? Tony flexes his hand. Don't tempt me. I know I have no right to ask this, but how is he now that you found him? Tony's never seen the wizard so tentative. He supposes that's Peter's doing. Kid can unearth the vulnerability in anyone. It's a hell of a superpower. He's going to be okay. Tony has repeated that to himself 1,000,000 times in the past month, but there's a special relief in voicing it out loud. I'll make sure of that. He told his friends today. They're both probably chewing him out right now for not making them remember him sooner. It was good to hear him laugh again. He truly is a remarkable kid. Tony pulls his sunglasses from his pocket and hopes he never finds his way back to Bleecker Street. This dark chapter of their life is over. It's only up from here. You have no idea. Thanks for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this chapter. Have a lovely rest of your day.